But then you get the kids too. So you get yeah.
Everyone else aside from the birthday.
Grab.
What we're going to do, there are beams on both sides of the device. You're going to side step around, placing first end of this gasket on the rollers here. And then what we'll do is then once again we'll lift up high, and again one more time. At the time, we'll lift up now. Okay, and side step around the device. Lift up high. We're going to lift up high one more time. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, I think we should just go to the end right here just because you have the camera. Yeah.
Lori?
I'm coming.
Suzanne?
Marissa. Suzanne's daughter.
Bobby Cox.
Bobby. Suzanne.
I could have all the family come in and have a seat.
We're going to let Uncle Alvin get
Anybody who needs a seat besides family, please.
Yeah, I'm here. Uncle Alvin needs to get on there.
Folks, you come in a little closer, and there are seats here, and there is shade. You don't need to be a martyr.
It's also this letter.
Yes.
You're a very wise woman saying down my
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Don.
They're giving you a flag. They're giving you a flag.
Ralph served in the JAG Corps during the war, and we have a presentation of the flag.
On behalf of the United States of America and the grateful nation, I give this flag to you in honor of your husband's service in the United States military. Thank you so much. Can you hold it for me? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all for being here today, the eve of Yontiv. You notice that we didn't stop on the way. Those of you who have been to funerals before and burials know that the Jewish tradition is to stop as we go up to the gravesite. We're not in a hurry to do this, but I guess today we're in a little bit more of a hurry. Yontiv is beckoning, and it'll be a hard Yontiv for the family, but here we are. I'm Rabbi Bill Rudolph. I know many of you. I'm one of the rabbis at Bethel, which has been the congregational home of the family for many decades. And there, Ralph was a regular at the Daily Minyan, which he helped establish there on Shabbos mornings also, until his declining health made all that and so much more no longer possible. It's my honor to officiate today. Ralph made a mark on so many institutions in this town. The Hebrew home especially comes to mind, and his professional career in law and the hospitality business earned him awards as well. He and Vera were such a presence in Jewish communal affairs, and not just because they were taller than everyone else. They brought grace and smiles and good outcomes to everything that they did. So I knew Ralph mostly from his involvement at Bethel. He was the vital center of the Daily Minyan, not because his davening was so amazing. I don't think he ever sang 2 consecutive notes in the same or for the schnapps that he graciously provided for the Kiddush. But because people loved being with him and loved that somebody who was such a mensch and so important in communal life would spend his every morning with them and with, of course, his maker. Wherever he plopped himself down for the breakfast, that's where his Hasidim would be found. Some are gone. Herbie Tannenbaum, the great exception. I don't know if Herbie was able to be here, but hopefully he is here virtually. Ralph was there on Chagim, of course, and on Sukkot and Simchat Torah, and they were especially noteworthy for the Redskins hat, the autographed Redskins hat, and the lovely Etro boxes, which won several awards. The year the autographed hat disappeared was nearly the end of Bethel. But the culprit, a kid, came forward, and we were able to exhale. Being Ralph's guest at a Redskins game was another nice Benny of being part of the Ralph fan club. The Redskins are no more, in name anyway, and now Ralph is no more also, but his name sure did not need to be changed. It was a name that sparked only good thoughts, and for all of us, good memories. The memories will surely live on. So the service today consists of some psalms and readings, and then eulogies from the family members, and then the concluding prayers and Kaddish. Things are a little different today because of the upcoming Yontiv, but mostly the same. We start with some psalms reading. This is from Isaiah. Kol Amer Karav Amar Ma'ekra. Voices cry out, and I say, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and all its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades when a wind of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God shall endure forever. Psalm 24, the David Mizmor. The earth is the Lord's and its fullness. The world is God's and all its inhabitants. God founded the world upon the seas, set it firm upon flowing waters. Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord, and who may stand in God's holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who takes not God's name in vain, swearing falsely, he will receive a blessing from the Lord, a just reward from his God of deliverance. Such is the generation of those who seek God, who, like Jacob, long for God's presence. Psalm 23. Mizmor leDavid Adonai ro'i lo eksar, binotesha yarbiteni amenukot inachaleni. Nafshi yeshoved yancheni b'maglei tzedek lemon shemo, gam ki elech b'gates ha'mavet lo irara, ki ata imadi, shivtaka u'mishantecha hema yenachaleni. Ta'arot lefanai shulchan neged tzorai dishanta v'Hashem rosi kosi rivaya. Ach tova chesed yordafuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti b'beit Adonai le'orech yamin. Join me, if you will, in the translation. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters, and restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now some readings from different traditions. There's a legend, and in the legend a certain neighbor, jealous of the genius and accomplishments of a great Jewish writer and poet, Ibn Gabirol, in the Middle Ages, killed him in a fit of jealousy and buried his body secretly beneath a tree. The legend continues that sometime after, people began to notice that a fig tree in the garden of that neighbor was bearing a particularly large and luscious fruit, like none that grew anywhere else. Curiosity was aroused. The tree was dug up in order to discover the secret of its remarkable fertility, and then it was discovered that Ibn Gabirol was buried there. The legend teaches us, of course in symbolic fashion, an important lesson about life. Our lives are riper, fuller, and more fruitful when they are rooted in the lives of good and righteous men and women, in soil which is enriched by deeds of loving kindness and mercy. All of life becomes lovelier when it is watered by streams of memory and fed by the cool springs of recollection and remembrance. Memories of a life of goodness, of generosity, family experiences enjoyed in common, are woven into the fabric of life and are a blessing to us, which remains to the very end of our days. And it is such memories that we all have of Ralph, who not only accepted life as good, but tried to make it better for all of us. Now, a poem, author unknown. When I come to the end of the road, and the sun is set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not for long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the Master's plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick of heart, go to the friends we know, and hurry your sorrow in doing deeds. Miss me, but let me go. Another, also author unknown. Do not weep for me, for I have lived. I have joined my hand with my fellows' hands to leave the planet better than I found it. Do not weep for me, for I have loved and been loved by my family, by those I loved who loved me back. For I never knew a stranger, only friends. Do not weep for me. When you feel the ocean spray upon your face, I am there. When your heart beats faster at the dolphin's leaping grace, I am there. When you reach out to touch another's heart, as I now touch God's face, I am there. Do not weep for me. I am not gone. Now for Vera. And if I go while you're still here, know that I live on, vibrating to a different measure behind the veil you cannot see through. You will not see me, so you must have faith. I wait for the time when we can be together again, not too soon, both aware of each other. Until then, live your life to its fullest, and when you need me, just whisper my name in your heart. I will be there. Now, a poem by Arthur Guterman called To All Who Mourn, struggling to find the appropriate words to express the mixed feelings that we all have, feelings of loss as well as gratitude. He put it this way, that he was dear to you so many a year, but darkens your distress. Would you he were less worthy and less dear, that you might grieve the less. He was a golden font that freely poured what goldenly endures, and though that font be gone, its bounty, stored and treasured, still is yours. The past is deathless, souls are wells too deep to spend their purest gains. All that he gave to you is yours to keep, while memory remains. Who never had and lost, forlorn are they, far more than you and I, who had and have. Grudge not the price we pay for love that cannot die. And now we'll hear from family members. Lori first.
I'm standing here thinking what so many people have thought in their lives when a loved one passes. There are no words. No words to express my sadness, my slight relief that he isn't suffering, and my grief that he is really gone. That I will no longer hear him say, "Yellow," when he answers the phone, or chant, "Hail to the Washington football team." But luckily, we heard him say and sing those a lot, and we will have those memories. These last years, as my dad's ability declined and he entered the final chapters of his life, it became harder and harder to remember all the other chapters of his life. But my dad surely lived a long, full life, and in these last months, he persevered so much. My dad was born in 1929 to Mariasa and Samuel Deckelbaum in Washington, D.C. He attended Barnard Elementary School and Roosevelt High School. His father died when he was 4 years old, and his mother ran the family business, a wholesale food market, and raised him and his two older brothers, Fred and Phil. She was an Aishat Hayel, a woman of valor. At a time when women were certainly not common in business, she made her mark. She set a great example of what women can do. Looking back, I think this prepared my dad for his life with my mom, Suzanne, and me. Although he balked at some things, he always knew that even though we were girls and then women, we could accomplish whatever we wanted, and he would support us in it. He went to the University of Maryland and law school at Georgetown. He got a job with Bernie Margolius after law school and served in the Air Force JAG during the Korean conflict. In 1965, after they had invested in some hotels, Marduk was formed to develop and manage their own hotel portfolio. They were involved in the early years of hotel franchising and had a few firsts. They opened one of the first Holiday Inn Crown Plazas in the brand. They built the first, I hope there are no fact checkers here. They opened the first Holiday Inn with an exterior built with something other than red brick. And they were one of the first to put color TVs in all of their hotel rooms. Oh, and by the way, my dad carried a phone in a briefcase like Get Smart and beta tested the Motorola brick phone, the precursors to our cell phones. These may seem trivial, but at the time, they were a big deal. I had the fortune to work with my dad at Marduk. I got to see his business side, the business side of my dad. Honestly, it wasn't much different than the dad that I knew and loved at home. When my mother and father met in 1957, it was the start of something special. My parents were set up on a blind date, although apparently it wasn't blind for my father, because he sent one of his friends to the drug fair where my mother was a pharmacist to check her out. Apparently, she passed with flying colors, and the rest is history. She is a woman of valor. My parents have given us so much, and my mother has been unbelievable these past years, and particularly these past 16 months. I love you, Mom. You are amazing. My dad was modest and charitable and could fall asleep anywhere, anytime. even I hear once or twice standing up during dinner, and definitely at a party. There are lots of pictures for proof. My dad loved his family, being Jewish, his friends, his community, the Washington football team, the beach, and his Johnny Walker Black Label with one ice cube. I'm not sure in what order, but he had enough love to go around. I only ask that the next time you have a drink, order a Johnny Walker Black Label with one ice cube in his memory. He would be pleased. Thank you. Love you, Dad. One of my favorite memories of my dad is being with him at RFK Stadium. He would stand up, face the crowd, and lead the responsive cheer of the former Washington football team name. While you may think this would be embarrassing for a young girl, I felt nothing but pride that my dad was the cheerleader, that my dad made others so happy. Through the 60-plus years that he never missed a home game, he continued to lead this cheer, sometimes at his own fancy tailgate party, sometimes at a Super Bowl, other times with prompting from others. So, although I won't say the former name of the Washington football team, since it's no longer appropriate, I will use the letters to share some of Dad's favorite sayings, life lessons, and cherished stories. Give me an R! R! R is for rituals. Whether it was football, household, or Jewish rituals, he imparted upon us the beauty of following tradition. For football, it was a swig of scotch after a score. And one of my earliest arts and crafts lessons involved helping him in the morning make the player's scorecard before each game. It needed to be done in a precise way. We had to cut out the player list from the Washington Post, tape it to a card from one of his dress shirts, and then tape the player, our team on one side and the opponent on the other. At home, my mom's domain was the kitchen, and his was the office, except for Sunday mornings, when my mom got to sleep in. I would meet him in the kitchen when everyone else was asleep. He would have me stand on a stool next to him and let me help him stir the slow cook oatmeal. He continued a kitchen tradition as he would sit my kids, Jeremy, Zach, and Marissa, on the kitchen counter at the beach, and they would squeeze fresh orange juice together. Our Jewish rituals, wow, there are too many to list. But lots of quality time with Dad was walking over a mile home from Bethel together on high holidays, singing Adon Olam, preparing Seder plates together, chopping the apples for the charoset had to be in Grandma Mary's bowl with her hand chopper. And at Passover Seder, carrying on that everyone had to have their own Seder plate so that everyone should learn how to lead a Seder. I loved my tradition of sitting next to him in shul, playing with the fringes of his tallit. Tradition wasn't just the Jewish way, it was Dad's way. He always sat at the same place in Bethel, left-hand side aisle, 6 or 7 rows back. Coincidentally, this was the same place that Michael would sit years later, and that's how they met long before I met Michael. Give me an E. E is for education. He taught us to ask questions and value learning. Until his health started to decline, he was definitely my go-to person when it came to important life choices and decisions. When I wanted to be a decorator, or later a social worker, he was the one who encouraged me to go to law school, saying that no matter what I chose to do later, the legal education was a good background for anything. He believed strongly in giving us a Jewish education. He was so proud that his grandkids went to the Jewish day school. For Lori and me, our Bethel Hebrew education was supplemented by his answers and explanations for any possible question we could come up with about Jewish practices. However, if we questioned why about anything else, his favorite answer was, because Y is a crooked letter. Give me a D. D is for dream big and just do it. Dad taught us to believe in ourselves, to push ourselves beyond what we thought possible. When I first learned to swim, he would stand in the pool with me just a few feet away, tell me to swim to him, and once I put my head in the water, he would slowly start backing away. He believed I could swim farther than I thought I could. He believed in us. He believed in himself, too. He switched mid-career from a successful legal practice to the uncertain venture of hotel ownership, management, and later development. He explained to me that he ended up with 2 jobs he loved, and ultimately he chose the one he enjoyed more. He believed in himself, worked hard, and was successful. In his hotel career, when others with advanced degrees analyzed the data and questioned, he believed in following his gut and dreaming big. Fortunately, more often than not, the business ventures were successful. When there were failures, which there were, he didn't fret over what could have been, what should have been. His response was to repeat his mother's favorite saying, "Mr. Shoulda doesn't live here anymore." He would move ahead and continue to dream big. Give me an S. S is for tzedakah. Yes, I know it starts with a T, but it sounds like an S. He gave generously of both his time and money. He volunteered and had leadership roles at Bethel, Hebrew Home, and business organizations. People who were friends of friends, or even strangers, would call him and ask him for a favor of a free room at one of his hotels. I remember once asking him why he always said yes. He said, "If I'm able to help someone, I should do it." I attribute some of my career success to this life lesson. If it's legal and you can do it, find a way to say yes. Give me a K. K. K is for kin. I didn't expect it would be responsive, but that's a tribute to my dad. K is for kin. Dad valued family and friends. He had such long-standing close friendships with childhood friends such as Marvin, who from the age of 5 he called every day. He maintained these friendships forever. The 10 groomsmen from his wedding were all at my first wedding. We all know how much Dad appreciated the times when we were all gathered together. Whether it was at the beach or holiday meals, everyone was made to feel a part of our family. At happy hour on the beach, he would serve our beach friends his famous frozen drinks. Years later, he became known as the mayor of 130th Street, as he would sit at the top of the dune and greet everyone coming and going. Strangers would stop and schmooze with him just because he had that warm, friendly personality. At family get-togethers, he wouldn't miss an opportunity to express his gratitude that we could all be together. The lesson that he taught me was to be present in every moment and to enjoy life. That deep sense of gratitude for the joy of the moment was best expressed when he would plunge into the ocean for a swim, float back on his back and raise his arms and yell out, "It's a Mahaya!" I don't have to translate because it's translated. So in the spirit of that gratitude, our family can't thank Karen enough for all she did for my dad. Give me an I. I is for innkeeper. Dad worked hard. He spent a lot of time on the road, traveling to his hotels, because he was that kind of hands-on leader. He taught me the lesson which I use every day: the customer is always right. That was Dad's starting point. He would take action to make amends and then do his best to fix the issue. As a child, when walking through one of his properties with him, I could see the way the employees called him Mr. D with such affection. His hotels were another extension of family. I remember for years we worked at the hotel on New Year's and Christmas, so more of his staff could have time off with their families. Give me an N. N is for the Yiddish word, nachamol, meaning one more time. Dad taught us it's important to work hard, but also to play hard. His game was baccarat. At the casinos, when he was winning, he would shout out, "Nachamol," meaning one more time. His growing pile of chips would create quite a scene, and he would have everyone at the casino chanting, "Nachamol," for him to win. I'm pretty sure that when he went to these places, there were many who thought his name was Nachamol. Give me an S. S is for silence. Between Mom and Dad, Dad was the quiet one. He taught us the value: if you don't have anything nice to say, then keep your mouth shut. Because he was a man of few words, when he did speak, we listened. He modeled for me the famous saying of King Solomon, that a good name is more precious than oil. Dad didn't speak out about himself or his own ego. He had a modesty about him, and he only spoke when he thought it could be helpful. Maybe it was his way of expressing this humility, that when he said goodbye, he would say, "See ya when I'm better dressed." It didn't matter if he was at a party wearing a tuxedo, at work wearing a suit and Nicole Miller tie, at the beach in his bathing suit, or wearing casual clothes, almost all of which were branded with the former football team. "See you when I'm better dressed" was his signature farewell. I never understood it completely, but I know it would make those around him smile and laugh. The memories, the words, and good deeds of Dad's life will live in our hearts forever. I love you, Dad. See you when I'm better dressed.
Thank you all so much for coming today to celebrate my Saba, Ralph Deckelbaum's life. I'm Jeremy, Ralph's oldest grandson, and I wanted to say a few short words on behalf of his grandkids. It's a difficult thing to sum up someone's life in a few short sentences, but in honor of my grandfather's trademark pithy conversational style, I will do my best. Ralph Deckelbaum was born on May 25th, 1929 in Washington, D.C. The youngest of three brothers. He was a successful lawyer, businessman, hotel developer. To us, he was just Saba. One thing I'll always remember is Saba's sense of humor. It was understated and definitely underrated. It was always evident in his common phrases, which you've heard most of already, his distinctive peccadillos, his way of answering the phone, "Yellow," his response to questions he didn't care to answer, because Y is a crooked letter. The way he would sneak a taste of our black licorice, just make sure it's not poisoned. And his farewells. "See you when I'm better dressed," just to name a few. While Saba wasn't always extremely talkative, he was extremely sociable. He loved dealing with people in his business and being around people in his personal life. And people loved being around him. This was evident even as a little boy when I would attend his Washington football team pregame tailgate parties. But even more so every summer when we would all go away to Ocean City, Maryland. When asking how everyone there seemed to know and look up to Saba, we were told that he was the mayor of Ocean City. A part of me always believed it. Saba instilled in me a love for entertaining, especially when it comes to mixing drinks. Some of my strongest memories from early childhood are sitting on the kitchen counter in Ocean City and helping him make fresh squeezed orange juice, sometimes with Zach and Marissa, and sometimes just the two of us. I would pass him oranges or help operate the juicer. When we were too little and not quite strong enough to press the oranges against the reamer ourselves, he would let us do it anyway. I remember he would gently but firmly put his hand over ours and provide the guidance and muscle so we could still contribute in our own small way, until eventually we had the strength to do it on our own. Gently but firmly. This was the kind of man that Saba was. When I was a bit older, I progressed to helping him make blended drinks for all our beach friends every happy hour. And even though the drinks were usually 50% lime rind, 50% shredding coconut, and 50% tequila, everyone always seemed to enjoy them. I learned from him the joy in serving others, in bringing people together, not always through words, but through actions. This power of actions was perhaps most apparent in his community service. Saba was very active in many community associations throughout the years, particularly the Hebrew Home of Greater Washington, where he served as president from 1983 to 1984 and continued to be very actively involved for nearly 25 years after. He was later awarded the Lamplighter Award from Chabad for his various accomplishments in community service. This was also apparent to us in the actions he took on behalf of us, his grandkids. Growing up, Saba was there for us at every sporting event we competed in, so many school plays, visiting days, events, and assemblies. He was always present to support us, gently but firmly guiding our hands. The power of his actions was also apparent in his relationship with Judaism. A regular attendee of Beth El congregation, he was a great believer in the power of custom and tradition. To me, though, this was always most apparent in his love of singing during the Passover Seder, despite being incredibly tone deaf. It has been a very difficult last several years, as Saba was slowly taken from us. I don't know that I will ever understand the reason that it had to be this way, but I hope at last he's at peace. And I know in some liminal space, he's still out there, drinking a Johnny Walker, one rock, smoking a stogie, and looking down on us with his wry smile, and, when necessary, gently but firmly guiding our hands. Thank you.
So one Yom Kippur thought following those wonderful eulogies. The Talmud tells us on the holiest day of the year, which is Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, would enter the Holy of Holies, the Kadosh Kadoshim, and offered prayers on behalf of himself and his family and the entire Jewish people. After he left the Holy of Holies, he would stand before huge crowds who had gathered in the temple grounds and would read a brief portion from the Torah. And when he finished reading, he added the following words: Yoter mima shekarati lifneichem katuv kan. Far more than I have read to you is written herein. And I think that it's true every time we gather together for a time like this, that there aren't really enough words to describe a whole life, especially a life like Ralph's. But I think the family members who spoke did as good a job as you could, and we're grateful for that. So now we're going to move to the more burial part of the service. Put a little dirt on the coffin. Say the Tziduk Adin, the long prayer we say at graveside. The El Malay will be replaced by a different prayer on the day before Yantiv, and we'll let everyone help fill the grave who wishes to, and then we'll recite Kaddish for the first time here. So, we have some dirt from Yerushalayim. The Jewish tradition always said to be buried in the shadow of the walls of the city is as good as you can get. Not really practical for us, so instead we bring some of that here. And I know Ralph will like that. Yashov ha'afar al ha'aretz kishahaya v'haruach tashuv el Elohim asher netana. The dust returns unto the earth as it was, but the spirit returns unto God who gave it. That is our belief and our hope that while we're burying Ralph's body, that his neshama, his soul, ain't there, couldn't be contained in that box, and he'll be with us for a long, long time. So let me recite the prayer we say at graveside, Tziduk Adin it's called. It's a prayer about divine justice. It's hard to say a prayer about justice when somebody dies. It doesn't seem just. But it makes us think of the years they had and the good they did. In Ralph's case, plenty of both. Hatzur tamim polo ki chol deracha mishpat el emunavin avel tzadik v'yasharhu. Hatzur tamim b'chol poa ma yomar mi yomar lo mati fal hashalit b'mata v'mal memitum chayeh murid she'ol v'yah. Tzadik b'chol deracha v'tzur tamim erech apayim u'malei rachamim chamona v'chusna alavot u'banim ki lecha adon ha-slichot v'aracham. Adami ben shana yiyeh elef shanim yeviyatayim rumto ki lo haya yiyeh baruch dayan ha'emet meimit v'machayim. Yadanu Adonai ki tzedek mishpatecha titztak v'davarach v'titzkeh v'shomrecha v'ein laharer achar midat shovtecha tzadik ata Adonai v'yashar mishpatecha. Dayan emet, Judge, Shofet Tzedek V'emet, Baruch Dayan Emet, Shekol Mishpatav Tzedek V'emet, Nefesh Kol Chai B'yadecha, Tzedek Malal Yeminecha, Rachim Al Leifat Tzon Yadecha, V'Tamar L'Malach Heref Yadecha. Gidol HaEtzah V'Rav HaAliyah, Asher Inecha B'chukot Akor Dafei B'nei Adam. Lateit Lish Kidracha V'Chri Ma'alav, L'Hagid Ki Asher Adonai Tzari V'Lo Avlat Tavo. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach, as Job said, the Lord has given, now the Lord has taken away. Blessed is the name of the Lord. We have much to be thankful for. V'hu rachum yechaper avon v'lo yashchit, v'rba la'ashiv apo v'lo ya'ir kol chamato. Now we ask you to rise now. We'll recite the memorial prayer. The El Malay is usually chanted. What I'm doing today is a different prayer, and I don't know what the music is, and Ralph will forgive me for just reading it.
Yes.
Eloah slichot, chanun v'rachum, erech apayim v'rav chesed, hamtzei kaparat pesha v'hakravat yesha, v'menucha nefana tachat kantvei hashchina, v'malot kadoshim et orim kazohar rakei mazirin et nishmat Rifael Chaim ben Shmuel Mari Asa. Shalach le'olamo, ana bala rachamim, zachralo letova, remember him for good, kol zechuyotav, all his merits, v'tzidkotav, all his acts of tzedek, v'artzot ha'chayim, v'fatach lo, sharei tzedek ve'ora, sharei chemla v'chanina. V'seter kanafachat hasti reu, in the shadow of your wings, God, guard him le'olamim, forever. Yitzror b'tzorah chayim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato. Yaviyanuach b'shalom al mishkavo. V'nomar Amen. God is now his portion, and may he rest in peace. And we say, Amen. So if you'd like to help Family First with putting some dirt onto the coffin, we're not trying to fill the whole grave, but to just cover the coffin. The custom is to use a spade or a shovel, to do 3 spades or shovelfuls. You'll see people do shovel upside down because we really don't want to do this at all. We do it poorly. We'll do that for a while and then we'll have it.
Okay. Everybody told their husband they bought for 20 or 30. Sold for 400. One to stay in the state of
Well, it's not in.
Yeah, it's real.
Green Bay, all those places, fine land. Philadelphia. From Philadelphia, you guys drove back and I got stuck on that plane. Yeah. You guys drove back and I got stuck on the plane. Yeah. And we had to land in Virginia. Couldn't go back to Wood.
Okay, we're going to recite Kaddish now for the first time at the grave site. Our hearts go out to the family, especially to Vera, who did so much to make the last years and days of Ralph's life as good as they could be. We wish you strength. And as you know, the holiday is coming, and because of that, there'll really be no Shiva this afternoon. And the family will return for a private meal of consolation back home, and then we'll see you for Yom Kippur, either virtually or in person. We say goodbye to Ralph now, but surely his presence will be with us as long as memory serves. Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah. V'yomad Divrach Hirutei, V'yamlich Malchutei. V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayei L'chol Beit Yisrael. V'agala B'zman Kari V'maru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, Le'olam Olamei Amaya. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shmei Kusha, B'richu. Leila, Leila, Min Kol Birchata, V'shirata. Tushbechata, V'nechamata. Damiran, V'yalma, V'yimaru. Amen. Yehei Shaloma Rabba Min Shemaya. L'chaim Aleinu, V'yal Kol Yisrael, V'yimaru. Amen. Osei Shalom V'imamav, Uyasei Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimaru. Amen. May the Father, peace and peace to all who mourn, comfort all the bereaved among us. Let us say Amen. Amen. So in a minute we're going to make lines so the family can pass between you back to the cars. I want to recognize Rabbi Antin is here. Erev Yantiv, the family is really grateful that you are. And also, Ralph's brothers, Phil and Fred, have each of them one of their sons. Will be Ralph's nephews are here. Where are you?
Steve is here.
Steve's over here.
Steve?
And then Sheldon.
Sheldon?
Sheldon.
Okay.
He's just calling out.
Means a lot that you're here. And yeah, somewhere underneath our...
And somewhere here is right.
I don't know where.
Unfortunately.
Okay, so we're going to make lines and the family will pass between you. We say, Amakom Yilachem Etchem B'Tosher V'Elei Tzion Yerushalayim, and God
and good laughs.
Still listening. All the way. That's Michael.
Ready?
We should get
Zach can help. Zach is here.
Sure, pull the. Yitkadosh Shemei Rabbah V'yoma Divrach Hirutei V'yamlich Malchutei V'chayechon V'yomechon V'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael V'agala V'zman Kari V'yimaru Amen Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Olamei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shemei kusha b'richu. Leila, Leila, min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran v'yalma v'yimaru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru, amen. Osei shalom v'imamav, v'yasei shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru, amen. May the Father, peace and peace to all who mourn, comfort all the bereaved among us. Let us say, amen.